Descent into the graveyard. The ocean was unnaturally still. Far above, waves rippled across the surface, but thousands of meters down, in the trench known only as Sector 9, silence ruled. Dr. Adrian Cole adjusted the submersible's floodlights, his voice crackling over the comms. Depth, 9,400 meters. Sonar shows a cavity ahead. The crew leaned toward the viewport as the abyss yawned open before them. At first, it was just darkness. Then, like faint stars flickering to life, pale shapes emerged in the glow of their beams. Bones. Colossal rib cages arched like cathedrals. Vertebrae the size of cars lay half-buried in silt. Skulls, some resembling whales, others wholly alien, stared blankly from the gloom. The trench floor was a graveyard, a vast necropolis of the sea. "Dear God," whispered Lieutenant Harris, his military tone cracking. How many creatures are we looking at?" There was no answer. As the submersible drifted deeper into the canyon, more structures revealed themselves. Some skeletons were entangled, as though creatures had died locked in combat. Others were stacked, layer upon layer, forming walls of bone. Elena Vega, the marine biologist, pressed her face to the glass. These aren't all whales. Some of them don't match any known taxonomy." Her hand trembled as she pointed to a massive skull, its jaw lined with serrated fangs longer than a man's arm. Malik, the sonar operator, adjusted his headset nervously. "Dr. Cole, I'm getting strange echoes. It's not just bouncing off bones. There's something deeper, something hollow." The comms fell silent. Each of them stared into the trench as if waiting for it to breathe back at them. The deeper they ventured, the more oppressive the silence grew. Even the hum of the sub's engines seemed muted, swallowed by the weight of the abyss. Finally, their lights swept across something so massive, the crew fell into stunned silence. It was a rib cage, larger than the rest, a mountain of bones forming an arch that spanned nearly the entire trench. And within it lay a skeleton, if it could still be called that. The skull was monstrous, elongated, with jagged protrusions where horns might have been. Its spine trailed endlessly into the darkness. Dr. Cole exhaled, his voice low and trembling. This has to be it, the origin of the legends, the Leviathan. And then it happened. As their beams illuminated the colossal skull, its surface seemed to shimmer. At first, they thought it was a trick of the silt, but then, slow, deliberate, the jaw twitched. The submersible's metal frame groaned as the trench vibrated, a low tremor that rattled their bones. Malik yanked off his headset, his ears ringing. "Did you hear that?" A sound, faint but undeniable, echoed through the canyon. It was not sonar, it was not machinery, it was a heartbeat. The first heartbeat was faint, like the ghost of a sound carried through water. Thump, thump, thump. Inside the submersible, no one moved. The crew sat frozen, as if the act of breathing might draw attention from something vast and ancient outside their fragile metal shell. Malik tore off his headset. His eyes were wide, pupils dilated. "It's not interference," he said, his voice breaking. "It's real. I swear to God, it's real." As if on cue, something shifted in the darkness. The sub's floodlights swept across a ribcage the size of a cathedral. For a heartbeat, it looked still. Then, slow as drifting continents, one massive rib groaned and bent, scraping against another. The sound, ancient bone on bone, echoed through the trench like a funeral dirge. And then the whispers. At first, the crew thought it was static bleeding into the comms. But static doesn't form words. Static doesn't breathe. The voices seeped into their headsets, curling into their thoughts like smoke. "Join us," they hissed. "Come closer." Cole felt it too, though he refused to speak it. The voices knew him. They knew his hunger for discovery, for truth, and they offered it to him. A trade. Knowledge for loyalty. Secrets for surrender. The hunger below. The submersible's floodlights sputtered, beams scattering like trembling fingers across the skeletal labyrinth. The glow from the Leviathan's eyes bathed the trench in pale fire, and with every heartbeat the water seemed to convulse, as if the entire ocean were pulsing in rhythm with the beast. Dr. Cole gripped the edge of his chair until his knuckles whitened. His mind was racing, clawing for rational explanations. Bioluminescence, seismic shifts, stress hallucinations, but none of them fit. The Leviathan was awake. He knew it with the same certainty he knew the pressure gauge ticking steadily toward red. Malik's voice was a rasp. It's aware of us." No one argued. They could feel it. The creature wasn't just looking at them. It was inside them. Its gaze pierced through steel and glass and bone, burrowing deep into thought. Elena whimpered. She had pressed herself into the far corner, nails scratching at the wall. Her pupils were blown wide, reflecting the phosphorescent glow outside. "It's speaking," she whispered. "Can't you hear it? It's promising me release. Peace." Harris cursed under his breath, fists clenching as he struggled to maintain command. "Don't listen. It's not real. Keep your head straight." But the whispers grew stronger. Each crew member heard something different. For Malik, it was his mother's voice, gone a decade, calling him home. For Harris, it was the drill sergeant who had once saved his life, telling him to obey, to kneel. For Elena, it was the sweet lilt of a childhood lullaby, luring her into surrender. And for Cole, it was knowledge. Raw, intoxicating. He saw flashes of civilizations long gone, of monuments carved into seafloors, of stars reflected in oceans older than the continents themselves. The Leviathan had seen them all. It could show him everything. "All you must do is yield," the voice whispered inside his skull. "Become part of the song." The hull shuddered violently. A massive vertebra slammed into the silt beside them, sending clouds of darkness spiraling. The sub groaned, metal protesting against forces it was never designed to withstand. Malik scrambled at the controls, panic overtaking reason. "It's pulling us in! The trench! Something's dragging us down!" On the monitors, sonar images warped and bled together. Shapes rose from the silt, massive and indistinct. Skeletal remains, moving, rearranging, clawing their way toward the surface of the graveyard. It was as if the bones themselves were answering a call. Elena's scream pierced the cabin. She pointed at the viewport. A skull, enormous, cracked and barnacle-encrusted, pressed against the glass. Empty sockets flared with faint light as if some fragment of life clung to them. Its jaw opened, teeth scraping against the sub, releasing a sound like nails across metal. Harris drew his sidearm, pointless against creatures of bone and abyss, but instinct was stronger than reason. "Stay away from the glass." The skull slid past, disappearing into the black. But more came. Hands of rib and claw, the remnants of forgotten titans, raked through the silt as if awakening to the Leviathan's will. "They're rising," Cole murmured. "The graveyard. It's not a tomb. It's an army." The Leviathan's heartbeat quickened. Thump, thump, thump. Each pulse stronger than the last, each one rattling the submersible's frame. The crew could no longer tell if it was sound or if their own hearts were sinking to it. Then the visions changed. Elena's scream cut short, and suddenly she was silent, eyes glassy, lips moving in rhythm with the pulse. She wasn't resisting anymore. She was chanting, though the words were alien, thick with consonants no human tongue should form. Malik grabbed her, shaking hard. "Snap out of it. Elena, fight it." But she only smiled, serene, as if she had already drowned and found peace. Her voice rose, matching the whispers surrounding them. Cole felt his mind fraying. Knowledge poured into him in jagged fragments, maps of the deep, diagrams of creatures never named, songs sung by currents older than mankind. His vision blurred, his thoughts splintered, and through it all, a single image repeated. The Leviathan opening its maw, swallowing oceans whole. "Show me," he whispered without realizing it. "Show me more." Malik spun on him, fury and terror boiling together. "Don't you dare give in, Cole! Don't you dare!" But Harris was the one who acted. He lunged forward, slapping Cole hard across the face, snapping him back to clarity for a moment. "Stay with us, Doc. You want knowledge. Survive this first." The hull shrieked again. A long, jagged crack appeared in the viewport glass, spiderwebbing outward. Water beaded at the fracture, trembling as though eager to burst through. They were running out of time. Malik's hands flew over the controls, desperate. "I can try to ascend, but it's fighting us. The thrusters. Something's pulling them against the current." Outside, the Leviathan shifted. Its body, still half buried in silt, stretched. The movement sent shockwaves through the trench, bones tumbling like dice across a casino floor. Its massive head tilted upward, those glowing eyes never leaving the tiny vessel, trembling in its gaze. Then the voices merged into one. "You are ours." Elena convulsed, body arching violently before collapsing limp in her harness. Her chest rose and fell, but her eyes no longer blinked. She was breathing, but she was no longer herself. Cole's heart thundered in his chest. He could feel it, threads of something vast worming their way into his mind, coiling tight around his thoughts. He fought to push them out, but every push only sank him deeper. He wasn't sure how long he could last. Harris barked, his soldier's voice cracking under strain. "Malik, get us the hell out of here." Malik's hands slammed the thrusters to full. The engines roared, the sub shuddered, and slowly, agonizingly, they began to rise. But the Leviathan moved too. Its massive jaw cracked open, water surging around it like a vortex. The trench itself seemed to tilt, dragging the sub back down. The lights flickered out. In the pitch black, only the glow of the Leviathan's eyes remained. And then the heartbeat stopped. For a moment, the silence was absolute. No pulse, no whispers, just void. Then came the sound that would haunt them all, the slow, deliberate inhale of something older than gods. The Leviathan was not merely awake, it was hungry. The devouring abyss darkness pressed in like a living thing. The submersible's lights had died, leaving only the monstrous glow of the Leviathan's eyes burning in the abyss. Each pupil was a vortex, endless, pulling thought and reason into its depths. The crew clung to the failing vessel as though touch alone could anchor them to reality. But reality itself was shifting. Elena. Once Elena rose from her seat, unfastening straps with mechanical calm. Her movements were slow, dreamlike, yet steady, as though directed by something unseen. She walked to the viewport, hands resting against the fractured glass. "It's beautiful," she whispered, voice layered, not entirely hers. "Do you feel it? The freedom? The silence waiting to take us home?" The crack widened with a sharp pop. Beads of water sprayed into the cabin, misting her face. She did not flinch. "Step back," Harris barked, pointing his weapon. His hands shook, sweat beading on his brow. He was a soldier, trained for war, but this was no war he understood. Elena only smiled. And then she began to hum. The sound was the same lullaby that had whispered to her before, but now it filled the cabin, reverberating, growing louder with every note. It wasn't her alone. The hull itself seemed to hum with her. The song was inside the metal, inside their bones. Cole clutched his ears, blood dripping from his nose. "It's rewriting us," he screamed. "Every vibration, it's carving us into something else." Malik roared, defying fear, and slammed the emergency ballast release. The sub jolted, rising sharply for the first time, but the victory was short-lived. The Leviathan moved, its massive body uncoiled, vertebrae shifting like mountain ranges, fins unfurled with the weight of continents, and its jaws. Its jaws spread wide enough to swallow them, the trench, perhaps the very ocean. Currents reversed, dragging the sub back toward its gaping maw. The crew screamed as the abyss itself pulled them downward, a funnel of black water streaked with bone fragments spiraling into oblivion. Cole's eyes darted wildly. In the vortex, he saw shapes. Cities carved from coral and ivory, pyramids sunk before human memory, temples lit by molten vents. He saw worshippers kneeling, arms raised, not in terror, but in adoration. They worshipped it, he gasped. Civilizations, entire nations gave themselves willingly. It doesn't eat us. It keeps us, forever. The sub shuddered, systems failing one by one. Panels sparked, alarms wailed. Malik fought the controls with all his strength, but it was like steering against gravity itself. Elena turned from the glass, her eyes now glowing faintly with the Leviathan's light. She spoke with a calm certainty that froze their blood. "You cannot escape. None ever do. The graveyard is eternal." The crack in the viewport spiderwebbed fully. Water hissed through in thin jets, spraying the cabin. The end was seconds away. Harris made a choice. With a guttural roar, he shoved Elena back, grabbing the emergency flare gun from the rack. He aimed directly into the Leviathan's glowing eye and fired. A streak of crimson fire cut the abyss. For a heartbeat, the unthinkable happened. The Leviathan recoiled. The pulse stopped. The trench trembled. Bones collapsed in a thunderous cascade. "Now, Malik!" Harris bellowed. The engines screamed as Malik threw everything into ascent. The sub lurched upward, clawing through the vortex, past the rising skeletons, past the collapsing graveyard, past the outstretched tendrils of an awakening god. Cole clung to his seat, mind reeling with visions. He knew they were not free. He knew the Leviathan's eye had not dimmed, only narrowed in rage. And then, silence. The ocean stilled. The current fell away. The sub rose into calm, empty water. Harris collapsed into his chair, chest heaving. Malik sobbed in relief. Cole sat shaking, unable to tear his thoughts away from the fragments of knowledge still burning in his brain. Only one voice broke the quiet. Elena, bound now and unconscious, murmured in her sleep. Her lips shaped words not in English nor any human tongue. A prayer, a song. And as they ascended toward the lightless surface, Cole understood. The graveyard had let them go. But it was not mercy. It was patience. Because the Leviathan did not hunt for survival. It hunted for worship. And it had already claimed them. The screen fades to black. A single heartbeat echoes, low and deep, before stopping. Then the words appear. The Leviathan is still waiting. Will you listen when it calls? If this story pulled you into the abyss, imagine what else lies hidden in the deep. Subscribe to Terra Uncharted for more journeys into the unknown. The ocean still holds its secrets, and we are just beginning to uncover them.